Hello, AgriScience. Welcome back. We are going to get started on the animal science unit. We for most students, this is one of their favorite units, and so I try to kind of put it in the middle of the semester so that everybody's so that the you know, it's about the time when the weather's pretty good and you can still get down to the barn, and hopefully we'll get some hands-on experiences with some of the animals in the coming weeks. The first thing we're going to talk about is some jobs in animal science, because it's kind of how we start out every unit, is talking a little bit about jobs that you can get in animal science. Now, obviously, for the most part, when we think about jobs in animal science, the first thing that pops into our head is always veterinarian. And there are, yes, veterinarian is kind of like the Cadillac job of animal science world. But there are so many other things that you can do in animal science besides being a veterinarian. So when we're looking at the different animal science industries, there's several things that we want to look at. You're not necessarily just looking at cats and dogs, or you're not necessarily just looking at cows and goats. You're not necessarily just looking at horses. Most people who work within the animal science industry are specialized in some way or another, just because there are so many different types of animals out there. So if we look at the different animal science industries and the way that people specialize, you first have got livestock, which is kind of where we put our focus here at Crest. We Animal Science 1 and regular Animal Science 2 are based pretty much on the livestock aspect of things. We do offer a small animal course, but most of our concentration is in livestock. So, the large animal livestock, we're looking at things that are going to produce milk. We're looking at animals that are going to produce meat, maybe animals that are going to produce some sort of fiber, or they're going to be work animals. And so when we're looking at those large animals, we are typically looking at your cattle, sheep, and swine and goats, especially for us here. Um, Poultry, completely different because you have a completely different type of animal that you're working with. So there is a lot of poultry in Cleveland County, a lot of poultry opportunities for jobs in Cleveland County. And when we're looking at poultry, we're looking at any animal that has been domesticated and is going to be raised for meat, or eggs, maybe even feathers. Really, not a whole lot that are raised for feathers in this particular area. Most of the things that you're looking at around here are going to be animals that are going to be raised for meat or eggs, but in particular, meat. Equine is becoming a much bigger industry in our area since the opening of the Tron International Equestrian Center. Uh, there used to be horses in the area, but horses have become a huge industry. In fact, Isothermal Community College has an entire program that you can go and train to work for Trine Equestrian Center. So, whenever we're looking at that, we're looking at horses and mules, but in particular horses. There are and should continue to be jobs in this area. I had an opportunity to tour the Trine Equestrian Center a couple of years ago, and you're looking at jobs all the way from people that come in and groom the horses at night, hairdressers that are trained to work with people, but they come in at night and actually braid the horses and the manes and their tails, and help with conditioning and beautifying the horses, all the way to people who would drive a horse ambulance. So there are lots of opportunities in equine science. Um, One that's not quite as popular in Cleveland County, but not to say in Western North Carolina, is aquaculture. We don't have a whole lot of aquaculture in Cleveland County, but there is in Western North Carolina several fish hatcheries. You're looking at in this part of the state, you're looking at things like catfish, trout, tilapia. Now, if you go east and you're moving toward the coast, then you may see more things like shrimp. and some of those fisheries that actually are more or less fish farms, and they raise things for restaurants. So, a couple of different areas of the animal science industry. Some examples of animal science careers. Now, all of these animals have to eat something, and an animal nutritionist is going to be somebody who actually studies the nutrients. They're going to study what the animals need as far as their bodies and how digestible nutrients are, and how many nutrients certain animals need. And they're going to formulate diets for animals. Obviously, you have the veterinarian, and we're all familiar with what the veterinarian does, but there are so many different types of veterinarians. You're looking at ones that are specifically large animal, you're looking at some that are specifically companion animals. Some do both, a mix of large and small animal. But then you have some that work on exotics, and so there are a lot of different opportunities in that field. Um, but a geneticist is going to be somebody who looks at genetics, and they would probably be doing things in research, maybe even in the animal pharmaceutical industry. And then you have people who are animal technicians. Sometimes we call them vet technicians. And those are going to be people who, and actually do have vet technicians on the next slide. But it's essentially, you know, the same job. They're going to care for and manage animals in a variety of settings. It's kind of like the nurse of the animal science world. You've got farm managers, herd managers, and they're going to manage just pretty much the daily operation of a livestock farm. You have breeders and trainers, and this is not just horse breeders and trainers. There are people whose job it is to specifically look at the genetics of animals and breed the animals and choose who needs to be bred to what. This is especially popular, of course, in the horse breeder industry, but also in the dairy industry. So lots of opportunities there. A farrier is going to be somebody who shoes horses, and there's not a whole lot of those in this area. We found one or two that we work with um, for donkeys and mules at our home, but for the most part, there's not a whole lot of those people who are going into that industry. And again, the veterinary technician, they're going to assist the veterinarian in caring for animals. Sometimes this is a little bit more, I guess, technical than the animal technician that was on the last slide, because sometimes these people do assist in surgeries and things like that, whereas the animal technician is typically going to be somebody who's specifically caring for animals. Some other animal science careers that you might not have thought about is butchers. A lot of our students are very interested in doing things like hunting. And whenever you go hunting, you have to have somebody that can process the deer. And so there's somebody who has to actually slaughter and dress the animals. There are also meat inspectors who work in factories, who work in these facilities where they slaughter the animals, and they make sure that everything is being done in a humane way, and that it is being done in a way that's going to pass inspection. You have people who do artificial breeding, who more or less are looking to see which animals need to be bred to whom, and they actually will study genetics, and then they will artificially inseminate animals for a farm. You've got sales representatives, people who work for companies, people who work for animal pharmaceutical companies. All these products that are created have to be sold. If you've ever been in PetSmart on one of the days, whenever these salespeople just happens to be there, sometimes they're in there trying to get you to buy their product, and they'll tell you about their product and give you coupons. So these people are around, and typically you will see them in vet clinics, but sometimes you also see them in pet shops as well. This is just a picture of somebody that would be a USDA meat inspector. Typically, USDA meat inspectors are licensed veterinarians. And one of the things that they're looking for in this industry is actually men to go into this industry, because veterinary science has become so saturated as far as women going into veterinary science. So really, we're looking for men that have the the work ethic and the desire to go into veterinary science, because it is becoming a female dominated field these days. Okay, last slide. Here in this area, you might have somebody who is working for a poultry hatchery. We do have a tremendous amount of broiler production, which is meat chickens. And those people who are doing meat chickens, they're going to manage the operation of a hatchery, and those hatcheries are going to send the chickens out to case farms, houses out on farms. So people, lots of jobs in the poultry industry in this area. An equine dentist, I would say that um, this is going to be a very specialized job, and so you're going to want to work somewhere where you have an opportunity to uh, be around a lot of horses. I would say maybe one or two in this area, but this is not a job where you're going to see lots and lots of opportunities available. An equine magazine writer, that is kind of just crazy, and I really don't even know why that's in the curriculum. Not to say that an equine magazine writer is not important, but it could also be somebody who's writing magazines for a poultry publication, or for a beef publication, or a goat publication, or something like that. So we're not just specifically looking at equine, but people who are writing those publications for livestock animals. And then, of course, another job as a microbiologist, and these people are going to be interested in looking at the study of microorganisms, parasites, and um, bacteria, fungi, things that are going on inside of an animal, and these people are going to study those. So, when we think about jobs in the animal science industry, typically we do think about veterinarians, but there are so many other things that you can do within the animal science industry, especially if you don't just get caught up and kind of have a one track mind and want to do the veterinarian thing and that's all you want to do. Keep your opportunities wide open, and make sure that you have an open mind whenever you're thinking about what you want to do for a career. I know there are a lot of people that want to work with animals, but everybody's not cut out to be a veterinarian, and everybody's not cut out to go to vet school. So um, I hope that you have an opportunity to kind of think about some of the things you want to do as you are in this course. And if an animal science career is something you're interested in, then come talk to me, and we'll see what we can do about getting you on the right track to do the things that you want to do. Next time, we'll be talking about biotechnology with animals, and that's where biotechnology kind of gets a little bit interesting. And we will be talking about that on the next slide. Talk to you soon.